Welcome to Tick Drop Watch Everything. Find us at tickdrop.com and on all podcast platforms.
So, where exactly are we dropping in today?
We are starting in France, and I want you to picture this. It's the summer of 1979.
Okay, I'm there.
You are standing right in the pit lane at the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
Oh, man. I mean, the absolute ultimate endurance race.
Exactly. The sensory overload is it's completely insane. You've got this deafening physical roar of engines vibrating right in your chest.
Oh, yeah. The noise there is unbelievable.
Right. The air is thick. You've got that unmistakable, really heavy smell of high-octane fuel mixed with burning rubber and hot brakes.
It's absolute chaos in the pits.
Total chaos. And a man steps out of a Porsche 935. He's completely exhausted, just drenched in sweat, pulling off his helmet. And, well, he isn't just a race car driver. He is absolute Hollywood royalty.
This is Paul Newman.
It is. The guy who played Butch Cassidy, Fast Eddie Felson. And the craziest part is he didn't even start racing until he was, in his 40s?
Yeah, his late 40s, actually.
Yeah.
Which is wild for motorsport.
Completely wild. But right now, in this moment at Le Mans, at 54 years old, he is placing second overall in one of the most grueling, punishing events on the planet.
Wow.
And he does it because, well, in his own words, racing is the first thing he ever found he had any actual grace in.
I mean, the sheer undeniable cool factor of living that double life is staggering. But honestly, my eyes are immediately going straight to the chunky stainless steel chronograph strapped to his wrist.
Because of course they are. I mean, if you're a watch nerd, you aren't looking at the Porsche and you aren't looking at the movie star.
Nope, not at all.
You're staring directly at that chunk of steel. And that's exactly what we're unpacking today. The Rolex Cosmograph Daytona, but specifically the so-called Paul Newman exotic dial.
Right, because, not just any vintage Daytona gets that title. And the funny thing is, the exotic dials weren't even made by Rolex.
Wait, really? Who made them?
They were made by Singer, the famous dial manufacturer. And they completely altered the visual weight of the watch compared to the standard silver or black dials.
Oh, absolutely. And the crazy thing about the exotic dial isn't just the contrasting panda look, the creamy white background with the black subdials. It's the tiny, obsessive details.
Oh, the details are everything on these.
Right. So you've got these blocky hash marks with little square ends on the subdials. You've got this funky, almost Art Deco font. It looks almost playful, right? Compared to Rolex's usual hyper-sterile, serious tool watch vibe.
It does. It breaks all their own design rules. Even the running seconds register at 9 o'clock is marked out 15, 30, 45, 60.
Instead of the standard 20, 40, 60, yeah.
Exactly. And you have this outer seconds track that is physically stepped down from the main dial so the light catches it differently. It's super distinctive.
To me, the original Newman Daytona is basically like a quirky indie movie that completely flops at the box office.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, like nobody gets it. Nobody wants to see it. It's pulled from theaters in a week. And then decades later, it becomes this massive, untouchable cult classic.
That is the perfect analogy. Because the wild, deeply ironic truth here is that these watches were massive commercial failures. I mean, Rolex quite literally couldn't give them away in the late 1960s and early 70s.
It sounds completely absurd today, knowing what we know.
It does. But you have to look at what was happening in horology right at that moment. You had this massive cutthroat race for the first automatic chronograph.
Yes. The race to 1969.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've got Zenith launching the El Primero. You've got Heuer and Breitling teaming up for the Caliber 11. Everyone is moving to the convenience of self-winding movements.
Right. The industry is just sprinting forward.
Yeah, and here's Rolex, stubbornly sticking to a manual wind Valjoux 722 movement for the Daytona.
It was basically archaic technology to the consumer at that point.
Exactly. People didn't want to unscrew a crown and physically wind their watch every morning when they could buy a Heuer Monaco that, wound itself.
Makes total sense.
So these manual wind chronographs, especially the ones with those weird, exotic Singer dials, dealers practically had to beg customers to take them. They'd throw them in at a steep discount just to clear out inventory.
Which brings us to 1972. Newman's wife, the brilliant Oscar-winning actress Joanne Woodward, walks into Tiffany's in New York.
Okay.
She's looking for a gift because her husband is getting deeply, dangerously obsessed with motorsports. She buys him a reference 6239 Daytona with that exotic dial for about $300.
Just brutal to hear $300.
Wait, hold on though. I know inflation is a thing, but $300 in 1972 is what, maybe $2,000 today?
Roughly, yeah.
I mean, even adjusted for inflation, that is absolutely nothing for a Rolex chronograph.
That just proves how much of a dead stock item it was. But the most important part of that purchase is the engraving.
Oh, the engraving is the best part.
Right. She has the case back inscribed with loving, slightly nervous warning. Drive carefully, me.
And Newman being Newman, he doesn't baby this thing at all.
Not even a little bit.
He doesn't treat it like a precious luxury item. He wore it everywhere, and he actually used it as a tool. You'd constantly see him wearing it with the chronograph pushers entirely unscrewed because he was actively timing laps on the track.
Or he was timing his daughter Clea's equestrian events, right?
Exactly. He practically lived in it.
But the shift, the moment this thing goes from a forgotten, obsolete tool watch to a cultural obsession, it's fascinating. Because it's deeply tied to the quartz crisis.
Oh, this is the crucial pivot. Walk us through that.
So in the late 70s and early 80s, cheap, hyper-accurate quartz watches from Japan absolutely decimate the Swiss mechanical watch industry. Mechanical watches suddenly feel like dinosaurs.
Yeah, they were getting crushed.
But what happens when new technology takes over completely?
People get nostalgic. They crave the analog soul of the old stuff.
Exactly. And the Italian vintage collecting community, who have basically always been the absolute tastemakers and trendsetters in the watch world, they start fetishizing these old mechanical chronographs.
The Italians always get there first.
Always. Around the mid-80s, a magazine features Newman looking effortlessly cool, wearing this exact exotic dial Daytona. And the Italian collectors see it. They obsess over it.
And they literally christen it the Paul Newman Daytona, right?
Yep, and the hype just slowly begins to simmer from there.
And right as that hype is starting to bubble up in Europe, Newman does something so casual it's almost infuriating. Let's fast forward to 1984.
Okay.
He's at his house in Connecticut. His daughter Nell is dating a guy named James Cox. James is out there helping rebuild a treehouse on the property, and Newman casually asks him for the time.
And James says he doesn't know, because he doesn't actually own a watch.
Right. And Newman, this global icon, wearing a watch his wife lovingly engraved for him, just takes the Daytona off his wrist, hands it to this college kid, and says, here, if you wind it, it tells pretty good time.
It tells pretty good time. I mean, he just hands over what is destined to become the holy grail of watch collecting to his daughter's boyfriend.
He just gave it away. And that handoff, I mean, think about it. While James Cox is just wearing this thing around college, probably scraping it against kegs at frat parties, the market for vintage Rolex is quietly going completely insane.
Oh, totally. The obsession spreads far beyond just that original reference 6239 pump pusher. Collectors start aggressively hunting down the later evolutions.
Like the panda dials with the screw-down pushers, right? The reference 6263 and 6265.
Exactly. And this is where the madness of Rolex nomenclature really takes over. It is a terrifying rabbit hole of obsessive detail.
You look at the market today, and you've got guys sitting there with jeweler's loops arguing over whether a dial is a Mark 1, a Mark 1.5, a Mark 1.75, or a Mark 2. It is unhinged.
Oh, it's gloriously unhinged. I mean, think about the watch currently on your wrist.
Okay, looking at it.
Now, imagine someone telling you it's worth an extra $200,000 because the R in the word Rolex on the dial has a slightly stubbier little serif on it.
It's just so absurd when you say it out loud.
Or because the font on the word oyster sits just a millimeter lower on the dial. They call them the oyster soda or oyster down dials.
And we haven't even mentioned the tropical dials yet.
Oh man, the tropicals. This is the ultimate example of why vintage watch collecting defies all logic.
Break down the chemistry of that, because it's wild that a literal defect is now a premium feature.
Right, so Singer, the dial maker, used a specific chemical composition for the paint on the outer minute tracks and the subdials. Often it was a type of Zapon lacquer.
Okay, Zapon lacquer.
But the mixture was flawed. Over decades of exposure to UV light, sunlight, the chemical bonds in the lacquer break down. The pigment oxidizes.
So it changes color.
Yes. So instead of staying a stark, deep black, the dial slowly fades and turns into this mottled, rich, chocolatey brown color.
So wait, let me get this straight. A manufacturing defect, sloppy chemistry from a third-party dial maker is what makes these watches worth millions.
Exactly. Collectors will fight to the death over a beautifully degraded dial. It's the ultimate premium for a beautiful mistake, because it means every single tropical dial is entirely unique. No two degraded exactly the same way.
That is just fascinating. So the market is exploding, people are analyzing serifs, hunting down oxidized paint, but back in the Newman household, the story doesn't end with James Cox walking away with the original watch.
No, it doesn't. Joanne Woodward realizes her husband still needs a chronograph for the track.
Because he's still racing.
He is. So for their 25th wedding anniversary, she buys him a sequel, a reference 6263 Daytona.
Nice.
This one has a black dial, screw-down pushers, and it's known as the Big Red because the word Daytona arcs over the bottom subdial in bold, bright red letters.
And the engraving on this one tells you everything you need to know about their relationship.
It really does. Apparently, the driving was still making her incredibly nervous, so she upgraded the warning. Yeah, this one says, drive slowly, Joanne.
I love that. Carefully wasn't getting the job done, so we're shifting to slowly.
And he wore that Big Red for decades. It was on his wrist constantly. But the really touching part is what happened to it at the end.
Yeah, in 2008, right.
Yeah. Newman was in the hospital undergoing treatment for cancer. His daughter Cleo was visiting him. And just like he did with James Cox in the treehouse all those years ago, he simply took the Big Red off his wrist, handed it to Cleo, and told her he wanted her to have it.
Man. It's just so deeply personal. It's an intimate family heirloom.
Truly.
Which is exactly what makes the next chapter of the story feel so surreal, almost jarring. Because eventually these deeply personal heirlooms step out of the family living room and into the blinding, aggressive lights of the global auction market.
October 26, 2017. The Phillips auction room in New York City.
Just a legendary day in the watch world.
Absolutely. James Cox had decided to sell the original 6239 that Newman handed to him back in '84. The atmosphere in that room was electric. You had Oral Bax, the legendary auctioneer, at the rostrum.
The opening bid was supposed to be $1 million, right?
Well, it's supposed to be, yeah. The bidding opens at $1 million. And instantly, literally the very first bid out of the gate from a phone bidder, a voice rings out, $10 million.
Just bypassing the entire single-digit millions. I can't even imagine the oxygen leaving that room.
It was pandemonium. Bax was stunned. For 12 straight minutes, the bidding is just frantic, going back and forth between phone desks. The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife.
And then also
$17.8 million.
$17.8 million. It utterly shattered every record. It was the most expensive wristwatch ever sold at auction at the time.
So let's unpack this. What does that number actually mean? How do we explain the mechanics of a $17.8 million price tag for a stainless steel watch that dealers were begging people to buy in the 1970s?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that price tag proves that this ceased to be horology. It transcended being a watch.
It became an artifact.
Exactly. It became a pure piece of Americana. It's this physical bridge between the golden age of motorsport and the absolute peak of Hollywood royalty. When you buy that watch, you aren't buying a Valjoux movement or a steel case. You're buying the swagger of Paul Newman.
Right. You're buying the myth of the guy who famously burned his own tuxedo on his front lawn just to avoid going to another formal awards show.
You're buying the essence of the man. And you know, the best part of this massive financial windfall is where the money actually went.
Yes. The millions raised by James Cox, and later the millions raised when Clee auctioned the Big Red in 2020, went straight to the charities supported by the Newman family.
The Nell Newman Foundation, the charities Paul founded himself, all went to philanthropic causes.
Which is exactly what Newman would have wanted.
And honestly, we can't talk about Newman, watches, and charity without sharing that 1999 auction story, because it is the most Paul Newman thing I have ever heard.
Oh, this is the ultimate flex. So in 1999, there's a charity auction, and Newman donates one of his own watches to be sold to raise money.
Okay.
The watch sells to an anonymous bidder for $39,000.
A nice solid chunk of change for the charity.
Right. But then years later, people are looking at photos of Newman at the track, and he's still wearing the exact same watch.
He bought his own watch back.
He secretly bought his own watch at the auction for $39 grand, just so he could quietly inject that money into the charity without taking any credit for a donation.
That is just impossibly cool. It says everything you need to know about the guy.
It really does. He didn't want the applause. He just wanted to fund the work.
Okay, so before we wrap this up, I have to put you on the spot.
Oh boy, here we go.
Of all the watches in this crazy saga, we've got the original 6239 pump pusher with the white exotic dial. We've got the screw-down Panda 6263 Big Red with the black dial. We even mentioned those ultra-rare gold variations floating around, like the lemon dial.
Right, well, the John Player Special.
Yeah, if you could magically have just one of them materialize on your wrist today, which one is it?
Honestly, it has to be the screw-down Panda 6263, the Big Red.
Really? You're passing on the $17.8 million original?
I know. But mechanically and visually, I just love the high contrast perfection of it.
Okay. Justify that for me.
Well, the black acrylic bezel, the way the screw-down pushers make the case look a little beefier, a little more aggressive, it just feels like the fully realized version of the design to me.
I can see that.
Plus, drive slowly is just great advice. What about you?
I'm going the exact opposite route. Give me the charm of the flawed early days. I want the original pump pusher, 6239.
The ugly duckling.
Yes. I love the steel bezel. I love that it doesn't say oyster on the dial because it doesn't have the screw down waterproof pushers. It feels, I don't know, vulnerable.
Vulnerable.
Yeah, it feels like a brand still trying to figure out what the watch is supposed to be. And the fact that it was such a colossal commercial failure just gives it this incredible underdog energy. I want the watch that nobody wanted.
Well, you and $17.8 million of other people's money.
Fair point.
You know what's fascinating here, and what really sticks with me about this whole story, is the beautiful, almost poetic irony of why we value these things.
How so?
Think about what a mechanical chronograph is designed to be. It is a tool watch, engineered by Swiss watchmakers for absolute flawless precision. It's meant to measure time down to the fraction of a second.
Right. It is the pursuit of perfection.
But today, these specific watches are valued in the tens of millions of dollars specifically because of their human imperfections.
That's a great point.
It's the misaligned fonts. It's the slightly thicker serifs on a single letter. It's the UV damage causing the Zupan lacquer to fade to a tropical brown.
It's all the flaws.
And more than anything, it's the memory of a guy who just loved to drive fast, unscrew the pushers, and beat the hell out of the watch because he was actually using it to live his life. We aren't celebrating the machine's perfection. We're celebrating the human flaws.
Which raises a really interesting question when you look at the watch industry today.
What do you mean?
Well, look at modern Rolex or modern Omega. They use Cerachrome ceramic bezels that are virtually scratch-proof and will never fade.
Yeah, they're practically indestructible.
They use synthetic sapphire crystals instead of acrylic. They use perfectly stable, UV-resistant pigments on the dials. They are laser-etched, computer-machined perfection.
A Daytona you buy today is going to look exactly the same 50 years from now.
Exactly. So by engineering away all the flaws, by eliminating the fading paint and the wonky serifs, are we engineering away the very things that make a watch collectible?
Oh, wow.
Are we killing the romance? Will there ever be another million-dollar mistake in horology, or is the era of the beautiful, flawed, exotic dial gone forever?
That is a heavy thought to chew on the next time you look down at your wrist.
That's it for today's Tick Drop. Find more at tickdrop.com, and we'll see you next drop.